Because of Mike Wang's NBA 2K21 blog that came out yesterday, Mike ended up tweeting over 20 times, trying to provide some form of clarity on a few things that some people misunderstood or just had trouble understanding. So what up 2K fans, it's time for some more NBA 2K21 news. This news is primarily about slashing to the rim and various other things. Mike tweeted yesterday that the key to making layups with the Pro Stick this year equals, instead of holding the stick to the left or the right, hold it in the direction you want for a brief moment, then quickly rotate it toward 12 o'clock to find the ideal aim point. Then Griffin asks, how about dunking with Pro Stick, how will that work? And Mike says, dunking is the same as 2K20. So obviously in 2K21 there's a learning curve for layups, which is going to create a skill gap between certain types of slashers. I guess they don't want it to be as easy as it was in 2K20 to abuse the paint. Another question from that same post, Max says, so it's like Street Fighter fireball motion, up starting left or right. And Mike Wang says similar, yeah. In terms of layups, we're just really not going to know how it feels until we play the demo 10 days from now. So now Mike has to answer some questions. Doc says, so you think it should be this way for wide open layups? He says wife open layups, but y'all know what he meant. Fast breaks too? I don't agree. It's a layup, not a jump shot. Mike says, I've gone back and forth on this, but settled on wide open, you can basically ignore timing and aiming and still hit. So basically, if you have a wide open layup on a fast break, you don't have to worry about timing it. But if you're driving into the paint and you're contested, you might have to flip that right stick around to avoid getting blocked. Solo Dolo asked Mike, is Intimidator broken still, where the center is nowhere by me, but he's still around so you miss open layups? Yes, he said we are a couple times, but we all know what he's trying to say. Mike says that's been tuned back. In other words, Intimidator has been nerfed. The rule of thumb though is if you're not a real slasher and you're trying to go up against a center that is an obvious shot blocker, it's best to stay in your lane and take jump shots rather than trying to score inside against that player. If he's nowhere around and you're missing wide open layups, I understand, but otherwise, that's just a low IQ play. Laker fan, who asked another great question, seems to always get Mike's attention. I'm sure you can hold X for wide open and be fine. But also keep in mind, pro players are pro players because they are good. I think being good at layups, semi-contested, should be a skill, just like shooting is. And Mike agrees. He says, exactly what I was going for here. Creating a skill gap for slashers. If you can master Pro Stick layups, you'll have a much better chance finishing at the rim, contested and through contact. That's a win for me because that's kind of what made Derrick Rose special, his ability to attack the basket and be able to finish at the rim regardless of the defense. Kyrie Irving is also really good at that as well. Mad Jim Jasper says,
straight trash, homie. Ain't nobody got time to be doing all that BS just to make a layup. Y'all tripping. You ever heard the expression, leave well enough alone? This better be optional, meaning I can go into the settings and change it back, or I might be requesting a refund.
I don't know, if you know this coming in, why even buy the game? Mike responds, you can turn it off, but you should try it first. It'll make you a better finisher if you can adjust. To me, this is sounding a little bit more like 2K's bringing back reverse layups from like 2K16, 2K17. In 2K20, no one used the Acrobat badge, and you barely see anybody doing any kind of switch hand layups in midair. The more I hear about layups, sounds like a W to me. Playboy Dono says,
see Mike, I like what I was seeing in the blog, but so you seriously gonna keep Intimidator in the game?
Mike says, I don't think it's a bad badge. It just needed some adjustments. So what do you guys think? I actually liked Intimidator for guarding really good shooters on the perimeter that hide behind screens. Usually when I get slowed down by a screen and I try to recover, that's when Intimidator kicks in and that's where I make it work the best. All I know is in 2K18, slashers had blow-by animations. In 2K20, everyone's abusing the hop step. Then 2K adds in an Intimidator badge, and it can be overpowered at times, but I definitely think it's useful. We got a good question coming in from OG Nick. Is Team Pro-Am gonna be on green or miss sliders? And Mike Wang says Team Pro-Am will use competitive sliders. Another good question would be if whether or not you're able to find matches in Team Pro-Am. Because once you got to a certain level, it was like no one around or you just kept playing the same team over and over. We got a question in from J Money. He says, so my players don't transfer from current gen to next gen? And Mike explains why. The next gen my player builds, badges, and takeovers aren't the same as current gen, so the saves aren't compatible. He said a lot in one sentence. Number one, we might have some new takeovers, interchangeable takeovers, the ability to equip 2 takeovers like in 2K19, or there's definitely something new about the next gen takeovers. Apparently the same with the builds and the badges. There might be new body types and an assortment of new badges in the next gen version. Another good question from Nah Fam, I can't. How will the new shot stick affect post play? Is the mechanic the same as layups with the brief then rotate? Mike says yeah. Let's say you're shooting a post fade by holding at 8 o'clock. You then rotate quickly to 6 o'clock or wherever the ideal aim point is. It moves based on coverage. Then you can either keep holding there once you find it, or you can release the right stick or tap the trigger to time it. Once again mentioning the ability to tap the trigger to time it. They stated in the blog that tapping the trigger is a way to lock in your jump shot. That's a whole nother button press in the act of shooting. We're really gonna have to play the demo to figure that out. And finally, we got a good question in from Get 'em Glock. Will current gen and next gen have the same dribbling mechanics? And Mike says the major components will be identical, but there are differences, which I'll talk about later. And I really do hope that Mike and 2K decide to talk about next gen, because a lot of this sounds really good for current gen, because some people don't want to just buy the current gen and wish they saved their money for the next gen version. So once again, I know a lot of you guys are not following everyone on Twitter. I hope this provided a little bit of clarification on how shooting is working and how layups and slashing is working. Same thing with Intimidator. The demo drops on the 24th, 10 days from now. So we're all gonna get a chance to figure things out at that point. I'm sure a lot of you guys are happy that they're allowing you to turn off the Pro Stick features, because if things are just too hard and difficult, you can just revert back to the 2K20 controls. These are just some of my thoughts on those tweets and responses. As always, let me know how you guys feel in the comment section below. Smack that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for more news, and I'll see you in the next one. Ronnie 2K actually tweeted this out and then deleted it. Luckily, the 2K Insider was there to save the tweet. Ronnie says gameplay details dropping for NBA 2K21 current gen. You'll get your hands on it when the demo comes out on 8/24. Tag a friend who's your first matchup. Check out the full gameplay blog on my IG story. Now obviously the part that caught everyone's attention was tagging a friend who's your first matchup. Does that mean that we'll be able to play against friends in the demo? Because Ronnie deleted it, there's really no clarification on that at the moment. And we really don't want to make the same mistakes we made last year in believing everything he says. So out of respect for Ronnie 2K, we're gonna move on.